Episode of Live with Astronomer. And so today, what we'll be going over is a really cool new tool that the Astronomer team has open sourced and released called AskAstro. And what is AskAstro? Well, it is, think of it like ChatGPT, but only for airflow. This is trained on airflow questions that we've received internally, training data that our team has generated for this LLM. And so just to show you it in action, let's say I want to write me an airflow DAG that performs an ETL process to transform Spark data and store it in a Snowflake database. All right, so going to, give it, hey, just the specs for an Airflow DAG and let it take care of the rest. And this is just one example of things you can do. You can also ask it for, solutions to questions if you have an error that you're running into, which I'll show you in a second. It'll also help you provide solutions on how to solve that error. And so since I'm asking it to generate a whole DAG, it will take a second. It's not like ChatGPT where it'll generate it in chunks. You'll just kind of wait here for it to generate. And then once it does, it'll just pop out in its totality. And what's also cool about this is you can, if you look up at the URL up on here, you actually can share these threads with other people. So let's say you're working on a AskAstro thread using it to create a DAG for you, and you want to share that with another teammate. You can just send them this link, and it will show them the full DAG. And then if they want to extend it for another purpose, say, hey, I want you to add a task here that creates a visualization. AskAstro can just build off of its existing conversation with you for that new person. So really convenient to share kind of chat logs and ways to work with AskAstro versus, just kind of relying on, manually copying and pasting the code. So you can see here we have S3 Snowflake operator that is outputting data into S3 bucket. So kind of made an assumption here. I'm going to actually ask it to extend it. Can you please show me that Spark task? Can you please show me that Spark job as a task? So if it doesn't get it right in the first try, just like ChatGPT or any other, kind of chatbot AI, you can keep asking it questions to kind of refine what your answers are. And this is really, what you're probably going to want to do. This is kind of like prompt engineering. Typically, an AI isn't going to get it right on the first try. So it's really important to kind of, keep asking it questions, give it contextual information, and help train it almost to solve your question. And you can see right here, now I have a Spark submit job operator that will output some data in that S3 bucket. So really great tool, not only for building DAGs, but let's say I want to look at a previously asked question. So again, similarly to how I can share a chat log with someone else, you actually can build on top of other people's questions that are really popular. Say, hey, is this correct? Is this not? And you can also upvote and downvote. Let's see. Or you can just mark whether it's valid or not. And so that will help this actually figure out, hey, are these responses accurate? Give it more training data so that this AskAstro only continues to evolve and get better at solving airflow questions. And then also what's very convenient down here is if you want to actually check the source data that it's using to generate your response, it will give you links to the docs of where it has gotten the information that it is then, kind of distilling and surfacing to you as an answer to your question. So you can almost check the LLM's work to make sure that it is not just giving you some gobbledygook, like when you ask for a DAG and it tells you some story about Ben Franklin, right? So very kind of, it really, I have found it much more useful for working with Airflow because it is specifically trained on Airflow data, and most importantly, it's trained on recent Airflow best practices. So if you've ever used something like Bard or ChatGPT to actually write an Airflow DAG or troubleshoot for you, it's relying on training data before 2021. And a lot of new Airflow features have been released since then that are make a lot of those processes that ChatGPT has been trained on redundant or just no longer relevant. Sometimes the DAG just won't even work. So this is trained on the most recent data, the most recent best practices, and will be continued to be updated with the most recent data because we're also training it on a registry and all of the most recent airflow information. So you're not kind of stuck with that older bias towards more antique ways of doing things with airflow. And just a little bit on the back end. So if you want to check out the GitHub, you can just go down to see the source code here. So this is completely open source. You can look at everything that was used in here. And so you can see for the general flow of the model, we are collecting GitHub issues, Airflow docs, Slack messages that we're receiving around, how to solve common airflow problems, doc files describing airflow DAGs, and just all this data that we're using to kind of figure out, hey, how does airflow work? What are kind of some typical errors? What are some typical issues? What does the standard DAG format look like? Then we're using LangChain to pre-process and split that into chunks. Then using OpenAI to embed those chunks, which is basically kind of distilling each of those data points to a more condensed and easily accessible embedding. So embedding kind of think of just as distilling many tokens, and a token is essentially a set of characters, a set of data points. So one English word or